There we we had the whole mic muted for that intro again. I apologize. All right, well, welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Rad. You missed the whole intro because of a technical difficulty. I sincerely apologize. So let's go right into it. I got Mike Horbaczewski here with me for a special Marine Corps birthday stream. And we just want to say happy birthday to all the Marines out there. As we go live today, we're going to talk about our experience as enlisted Marines, our deployment in Afghanistan, blast injuries, and how all that stuff affects you in life after service. So please stay tuned in for all of it. And go ahead, head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We're closing in on 10,000 subscribers. So please help us get there so we can get all these shows and content out to more and more people. So what I was saying that you all probably were unable to hear, as we get the show started, if you are a veteran, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat so we can see all the veterans out there in chat. If you are a family or supporter of a veteran, because even though today's the Marine Corps birthday, tomorrow is Veterans Day, so we're recognizing all veterans on the stream today. If you are a veteran, family or supporter of veterans, go ahead and put a 2 in the chat for me. And then, as always, if you are a terrorist, please go ahead and put your address in the chat. We've got an unmarked complimentary gift that we'd like to send you in the mail. I'm just kidding, sort of, but you get the idea. Mike, welcome to the show. How you doing today? Good to see you, brother.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It's good to see you. Happy birthday and semperfi.
Rah, rah. So for those of you who don't know, today marks the 247th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. November 10th, 1775. That's when the day that our Marine Corps came alive in Tun Tavern. It's very fitting that the Marine Corps was born in a bar, and we make sure we keep that spirit alive. All right. Are we having issues with audio still? Let's see. Hang on one second. Mic is off? Hang on. Test, test, test. Mike, you can hear me fine. It seems like we're getting a big issue with the stream audio. Let's dig into this technical issue. All right. Let's talk to the production team. Oh, okay. I'm getting the thumbs up from the production team that we're good now. Okay. So, we do apologize. Like you said, we're learning with each and every episode. You know, if you join with us live, you get to check all the bloopers in real time. Obviously, if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, you know, we'll cut all that stuff out. We'll make a nice, clean video for you to watch, so you'll have no idea what we're even talking about. Like we said, today's the Marine Corps birthday. We were born in a bar. Marines keep that spirit alive. I'm sure once we wrap up this show today, many of us are going to go out and have a good time, having a few drinks, celebrating the birth of our great Marine Corps. And so with that, anything you want to say to everyone out there, Mike?
Just semperfi. You know, just keep after our brother's keeper, you know, look after each other, and, you know, just keep it alive, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
We're the founders of the tradition, so.
Mm-hmm. On that note, I do want to go ahead and give a shout out to some of the brothers that, you know, I haven't talked to in a little bit, but I know you're out there. I know you're listening. Out to my brother Nolan, Olson, Bellafleur, crazy out there somewhere, Camarena. You know, we're raising daughters that are about the same age now, so we're both running around doing all that fun stuff. And Davidson, I know your crazy asses are out there somewhere. I wish you all a good and happy birthday, okay? All right, so let's stay on the topic of the Marine Corps Ball, because what most people who are not Marines or military members, for that matter, probably don't understand are all the crazy things that happen at a Marine Corps ball. So I got a few stories. I was curious, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen at a Marine Corps ball? Because some of the strangest things that ever happened in the Marine Corps happened at a Marine Corps ball.
Well, actually, one of the funniest stories I do have from the Marine Corps ball was when it was shortly after everybody first got back. And my wife to be, when we were still dating at the time, she was in the Marine Corps. So she dressed up all pretty, and we're there. And our gunny at the time, I introduced him to her, and he was trying to talk me up, and he's like, you see this Purple Heart? He's such a badass, you know. He's such a badass guy, you know. He's like the coolest dude ever, all stuff like that. And then I didn't let him know that she was a Marine too.
Huh.
So literally that Monday, I guess he found out, and he was like, you just made me sound so stupid. He's like, he just started chewing my ass out, and I was like, all right.
That's too funny.
I was like, I didn't want to overstep anybody here.
That's funny. Oh, on that note, let me tell you a great story. My wife will love this one. So, let's see, Marine Corps balls this time of year. So it was about, it must have been late October. Because sometimes, you know, even though the Marine Corps birthday is November 10th, if you figure every single unit in the Marine Corps is trying to schedule a big, giant, elaborate banquet on the same day of the year, there's not going to be any place to host a banquet left in the country, basically. All right, we tear the place down when we have a Marine Corps ball. So usually Marine Corps balls will range anywhere from like early October to November, possibly even sometimes even into December. So I believe our particular ball was must have been early October, and my wife and I were planning on getting married that year in November. Our anniversary is November 27th. We got married Friday after Thanksgiving, and so this is, you know, you got to figure weeks before our wedding, and it was right before we were getting moved from regiment over to 1st Battalion to be attached for our deployment. And I get a phone call from staff sergeant while I'm out on the range. I'm actually in the pits. I'm running pits, throwing targets up for people. And staff sergeant calls me. He goes, "Hey, we're going over to 111 any day now. Tomorrow, maybe the next day." I was like, "Well, roger that, staff sergeant. I'm supposed to be going home on leave for my wedding in like a week or two." He goes, "Oh, stand by there, Lance Corporal. That ship might get canked." I was like, holy, he's going to cancel my wedding. And, you know, I didn't know what to do, right? I was like a Lance Corporal. Like, what am I going to do? Tell Staff Sergeant to go screw himself? I'm getting married? Like, that's not going to fly. So I'm telling my wife this, who's in town for the ball, right? We were going to the Marine Corps ball like that day or the next day. And we show up at the Marine Corps ball. I kid you not. I am not like elaborating, making anything up in this story. You know how the chief warrant officers and everybody, right? They want to meet the significant others of people in their platoon. Well, our chief warrant officer comes up to my wife, or like fiance at the time, and I, and you know, she said, "Oh, you know, Lance Corporal Rad's been doing a good job. You know, he seems like a good guy. You know, what do you do? Like trying to get to know my wife to be." And well, he actually didn't know that we were supposed to be getting married. He just thought she was my girlfriend or whoever. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what he knew. And at the end of the conversation, he just goes, "Anything you need, Julia, you just ask me. We're here to support your family," and blah, 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 blah. And like in my mind, right, you know, like the military tact of, "Hey, Olsen, I see you in the stream, brother. Welcome. Happy birthday, Marine. Happy birthday, Marine." So anyway, I know the military tact of, you know, how things go. My wife, she had not been married to the military yet. She was still living back east. Very much her life was independent from my military life at this point. And she thought he was serious. She thought literally all she had to do is ask the chief warrant officer if she needed anything. And she goes, "Well, you see, Chief Warrant Officer, we got this little problem. Staff Sergeant told told Ryan his leave might get canceled and we're supposed to get married. And the chief warrant was like, really? You're getting married? Well, I can't let that happen. And this is literally all I see. I see the chief warrant officer. He walks away. I see him talking to Staff Sergeant Ford. Staff Sergeant's like 6 feet tall. And he's like telling him, and I see Staff Sergeant standing there like this, talking to him, and he just looks at me. He's like this, stares me down. In that moment, I was like, I'm done. Staff Sergeant's gonna kill me before I even get to Afghanistan. And so he just walks over and he goes, you didn't tell me you were getting married when you were on leave there, Rad. And I was like, well, I didn't, I was speechless. And he goes, we'll work that shit out. I was like, oh my goodness. Literally, like that. Talk about your wife skipping the chain of command entirely. Oh, yeah. Literally. I thought, obviously a lot's transpired since then, but that was probably one of the craziest things that ever happened at a Marine Corps ball for me. Yeah, good times. Miss those days. The best ball we ever had, though, is definitely the post-deployment ball with 111. You know, that was a special one. That was a very drunk night. Oh, for many people. Many people. I remember the CO of the unit was just like so blasted. And he's just standing there telling my wife how much he loves me. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is the commanding officer. I barely know this guy. But apparently he's in love with me because no one is more important than the guy who keeps the power running, apparently. That way his laptop didn't die. So, anyway. And then always you got the, the typical stories of the, drunk Gunny dancing with that corporal that is a little awkward and everybody's standing there wondering what are they doing in the middle of the dance floor. Classic Marine Corps.
You talking about Gunny Jones?
Oh, that wasn't a 111 story. That was a regiment. That happened at a regimental ball.
Because Gunny Jones was tearing out the dance floor like nobody's business.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that dude dances like a champ.
How much did he drink?
It was probably nothing. He was probably stone cold sober.
Exactly. That was 100% it.
That guy, man, there was a trip. Gunny Jones, man. You remember that barbecue at his house? It was like going on MTV Cribs. You walk in and they're like taking you through the house, showing you like his movie theater and all this stuff. You're like, God damn, Gunny! Like, what? What are you doing, man? He loved that house. Oh my goodness. Good times. So, any more ball stories, or should we move more into the Marine Corps stories?
Oh, we can move more into the Marine Corps stories. We don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
That's true. Marine Corps ball stories end careers, but fortunately, I think most of the people we encountered at Marine Corps balls are probably long moved on in their career by now.
Let's just keep it at the Vegas level.
Yeah.
So the Marine Corps ball stays at the
100%. So, anyway, why don't I just kind of open the floor a little bit and you give us some background information. Tell everybody watching about just go from the beginning. What made you join? What was your motivation? What were you doing before you were a Marine? And, how did you end up in Afghanistan with my sorry behind? And well, I'll give Mike a second to collect his thoughts on all that and where he wants to start. I'm going to send you over to our YouTube channel. I want you to subscribe. I want you to hit like on this video and all the other videos that we're making because we're getting real close to 10,000 subscribers. And we want to get all these great videos out to more and more people. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're even more impressed by what we're doing, you want to see more of it, you want to see it get better, then go ahead, head over to our website, brainandspinegroup.org/donate or /support, and you can donate to the nonprofit organization Brain and Spine Group. Nobody here is raking in cash on your support. This is entirely a government 501c3 nonprofit organization aimed at improving brain and spine health globally. And obviously, with my personal interests, we focus very heavily on veterans, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury. And hey, happy birthday right back at you. Olson's in the chat there, Mike. I don't know if you can see the chat, but Olson's just saying happy birthday to you. He's happy to see you.
Good. I'll be glad to see him. I know he's just like a couple states over.
He is. If you need a new car, go ahead, head over. You still selling cars, Olson? We'll send everybody your way. You need a new car, Olson will hook you up down in Arkansas.
Sure.
All right. So anyway, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Mike, the floor is yours. Well, tell us a little background about yourself.
Well, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and this is where I got my nickname in the Marine Corps, but I used to play in a couple bands prior to joining. And then once I realized I was going to be in a position, I was like, I need to figure out where I was going with it. And I was like, I just wanted my independence. I always admired the camaraderie that the Marines had. So it's like, I just went from there, signed up. Literally a couple months later, I was in San Diego in boot camp, getting freaking yelled off that bus.
Mm-hmm.
We've
all been there. Go ahead. You tell your story. I'm gonna find a video of some yellow footprints videos for our audience. You go ahead. I'll pull that up.
But I mean, then you look at the transition from MCT, whether it's people go to SOI, and then you go to your tech school, and then you're in the fleet. But by the time you get, it's such a short period of time, and you're literally nonstop the whole time. And then I finally get to the fleet at 111, not realizing that I was in the armpit of Camp Pendleton. Literally, far from anywhere, far from anything. I mean, if you didn't have a car, you were SOL.
Mm-hmm.
So being a brand new Marine there too, I had a lot of great leaders that took me under their wing to freaking show me what to do and how to take advantage of everything the Marine Corps had to offer. You want to jump at every opportunity that they gave you, whether it was McMap, whether it was any classes they had to offer,
McMap for our non-military viewers out there. McMap stands for Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. So it's the formal martial arts training program of the Marine Corps. Go on, Mike.
I had my plan on spending my career there in the Marine Corps, and then it just went downhill after Afghanistan. You get to the fleet and you're literally training all the way up to the time we left. I don't think there was not 1 month that we were not in the field or doing some other training to work up for deployment. And it was just literally hit the ground running out there.
Yep.
And freaking, I think you guys came to us when we went getting ready to go to 29 Palms.
Yep, not long before. Long before. 29 Palms. Well, you want to go tell the audience about 29 Palms. That's a special experience.
And honestly, to think about it, it's like one of the most like I don't want to say it's just to offend anybody, but it's like almost like a frat boy experience.
I mean, you take a bunch of 20-something-year-old guys, you stick them in the middle of a desert with nothing except their own imagination and entertainment. It turns into quite an environment very quickly.
Oh, it went downhill really quick. To keep us in line.
Yep.
When you gave that impression of Foreman, man, I was like, one of the most intimidating dudes to a young Marine that there is. I guess what? Gunny Foreman, I think he retired as. We all knew him as Staff Sergeant Foreman. Right. Oh, for sure.
There were very few people as scary in my life as Staff Sergeant Foreman. I'll tell you that right now. Oh my goodness.
Guy just towered over you and just like stole the fear from your eyes looking up at it.
Mm-hmm. I'll say, what I will credit him with, when we were in 29 Palms, I remember I was a very young Marine, very inexperienced, but I was brought there because the Marine Corps had trained me in a specialty in which no one else was trained. But that really wasn't how I viewed the world. I just viewed the world as I was a Lance Corporal. I was just one of the many peons. I didn't really view myself as a specialist. even though I had been through this training. And so I kept going to the staff sergeant foreman. Hey, staff sergeant, what should I do about this? What do you want about this, staff sergeant? And, at first he was kind of like, all right, I'll help this guy out, keep him. He's working hard. I can appreciate that. After about like the second or third day of me constantly asking him questions about, how do I do this? But he just stops, stares me stone cold. Rad, you're part of this unit because you are the subject matter expert. Start being an expert. Stop asking me so many goddamn questions. In that moment, I stopped asking Staff Sergeant virtually any question, and I just started making things up as I went. And it actually was very empowering because once I realized, this is your first adult experience out in the real world, right? I had relied on my parents for pretty much everything up until this moment. And, it's where that light switch goes off in your head. You're like, I'm an adult now. If I don't know how to do something, I got to figure it out. There's no one out there to give me the answer. And just from, now looking back 12 years later on my career, that moment that I had with Staff Sergeant Foreman has served me every step of the way through college, medical school, residency, everything I've done since I've left the Marine Corps. Started with Staff Sergeant Foreman waking me up and turning that light bulb on. So if you're out there, Staff Sergeant, thank you. Although I got plenty of other beef with you I'll take up with you off stream.
But to back you up on that one, a lot of influential people came from the Marine Corps that affects my life today. Like one person in particular was Sergeant Sines. When I was in the fleet, just following directions, I just figured, that's just the good old man sport you do is just do what you're told and just stay in line. But when he came up to me one day and he's like, why are you doing all this stuff, He's like, me personally, he's like, I'm going to treat you like you're a man before you're a Marine. So start living your life like that and view everybody as a man before they're a Marine. So show that respect. Put forth the effort and make sure you shine through. And don't let that rank hold you back. And that's, and I honestly think about that. I apply that to my everyday life today. Don't let anything hold you back. Don't let any obstacle get your way. Don't let any intimidation of somebody else or where they're at in their life keep you in a certain place that you don't belong. Just keep moving forward. But to jump back, let's jump forward into even when we went to Afghanistan. It's like, you think about this, like we were, how old were you when we were out there?
Let's see, 2010, so I would have been exactly 20.
Yeah, because I turned 21 out there.
Yeah, I turned 21 right after we got back. I was actually in the field. I was like my first field up after getting back from Afghanistan. I turned 21. It was a pretty lame 21st birthday.
And you look at the 20-year-old, you look at 20-year-old kids now, and you think about us back then, we're just so young. Mm-hmm. Like you look at how we were, and it's like you go from, this is where it even goes right to the injury point, from the blast from the IEDs and stuff like that when I was hit too. You look at that, it's like I was so used to going full speed every day of my life since I joined the Marine Corps to nothing. And then how much that impacts you too. And then it only trailed down too, even after the post-concussive symptoms, is like you realize, like when I remember when I was trying to go back on hikes and stuff like that, I'd black out, like my eyes, I would start getting like issues in my eyes and stuff, and like terrible headaches and balance issues. And it's like, you go from like this perfect person that's healthy, fit for combat, that's, you're the toughest dude ever, to finally having to deal with problems. And it's like, you don't know how to take care of yourself because you're always, looking around and trying to get the mission done, looking out for the brother to the left or right for you. You don't really focus on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. You're used to life a certain way, and then everything abruptly changes. That is the thing that makes trauma so challenging as a physician to see happen in the lives of your patients and the families that you work with. And even before I was a physician, just being a part of people's lives who underwent spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, seeing how they changed. It was hard. It was hard from the sense of you want to do something and you're not even sure what to do to help them. But I do just want to take a quick break for a second. Say thank you out there, Teddy Dill, for subscribing. Olson, thanks for sharing the show. We appreciate everybody who's out there. If you're in the chat, we'll go ahead and bring back our poll. If you are a veteran, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat for us. If you're a family supporter of veterans, 2. And if you're a terrorist, you know what to do. We're coming for you. So it's actually, I want to stop here and talk about this for a second, because the joy of this stream, this podcast, is we plan shows and content, and that prompts me to go deeper into my own reading and research as a physician to understand problems and issues related to neurotrauma and what's being done. And a big part of neurotrauma is dealing with what we call systems of care, right? It's not a medication. Oh, can we research a pill that we can give you to, hold on, do we lose Mike here on the stream? Right, we may have lost him. We'll work on getting him back here in a second. Let's see here. We back?
Yep.
I think we're back. Hey, Carlos, thanks for sharing the stream. We appreciate it. We got you, Lima Charlie there, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So what we were talking about is systems of care. It's not just trying to research that magic pill that you can give somebody who's injured that's going to fix that injury, or a procedure that you can do to fix this problem. It's about the whole system. How do you prevent the injury from happening? If you can't prevent it, how do you get them to the right level of care as fast, as expediently as possible? Then what is the right level of care, and how do you then progress a patient or an injured military member through a correct system of rehabilitation so that way they have the best chance possible to recover? And something interesting that I was reading about in, it was an article, let me see if I have it here, an article from Brain Injury Medicine is looking at what we call pre-hospital systems of care. It's basically how do you, what is the overall view of how we take care of patients before they ever get to the hospital. And one of the things they talk about was, let me see if I can find it here. They call them concussion care centers. So I guess these are more typically Army-based concussion care centers. They have a naval version of it that they comment on here somewhere. But it's basically the naval equivalency of the Army's concussion care center. And they say that it's designed around creating a space where basically you have, in their case, a soldier or another military member who's injured in theater. The importance of not taking that person away from their unit. And that they've designed these concussion care centers so that they eat, socialize with the unit. They basically remain with the unit, except they don't go out on patrols and, carry out combat operations. I know we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but, because we haven't even talked about the actual deployment or, what, your experience was. But, spoiler alert, obviously Mike had, a traumatic brain injury that was very significant. He's been through many of these things that we're talking about with a very first-hand experience. Were you in any sort of concussion care clinic equivalent?
They didn't really, at the time, they didn't really have much to offer.
Yeah, and that's what I'm finding.
To the British hospital,
yeah.
When I got to the British hospital, they really didn't have much to offer, even with anybody dealing with a concussion. Until I believe it was after 2012, they started introducing a lot of more stuff out in theater.
Yeah, and that's what I'm I'm reading about all this really cool, interesting new stuff, and then I'm looking at the dates where this stuff's published.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second, all this stuff came after us. In fact, actually, I was just reading, where is it here? There's got to be a date here. think it was at the very beginning of this article here, that initiation of military surveillance of concussions and traumatic brain injury only started in 2009. So with our deployment being in 2010, we were basically the very first cohort where they even were looking for evidence of traumatic brain injury amongst injuries.
You could even look at that, all the protocol that we had to do prior. We had the reaction test where we just click on a star on a laptop, and it recorded our baseline reaction. And then even with post-concussive care and post-brain injury, stuff like that, they had the memory test, which was just like a simple 5-word thing where it was like apple, carpet, saddle, bubble.
Yeah.
And then then they'll have you repeat it in 5 minutes.
Oh, right. Actually, I remember them doing that before the wrestling season at Cornell.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I spent a very brief period of time before I fully committed to pre-medical studies on the wrestling team at Cornell. And before the season started, they did that same battery of tests.
The sad part about that with the Marine Corps and the naval medicine was they never changed those words. So it was literally apple, carpet, saddle, bubble the whole dang time.
Wait, so like you're talking about, I mean, you were there for what, a month or 4?
Yeah.
Or however long.
Like
every time they would repeat that test, they just kept doing the same
test.
So you would eventually just learn to regurgitate whatever. Oh my goodness. Huh.
It's like literally, and
that's crazy.
Why I still remember it.
Yeah.
Like, even when I got back to Balboa in California, they literally was the same words, and I'm like, why? Like, you're gonna remember these words.
Yeah.
It's only a little few words, so.
Well, it just goes to show that in many ways, sometimes our bodies feel very old, and events of this world make us feel very old. Like to think we're still actually relatively young. The fact that these things, in part, well, maybe more in spirit, but a lot of this, right now, baseline research in traumatic brain injury, that data only started basically with our deployments to Afghanistan. So it just goes to show there's so much work that needs to be done out there, and that's why Brain and Spine Group exists, because we want to do that work. So this is a good natural segue to say, if you want to support that work, we've got a lot of, we're continuing with education, we're expanding our efforts in research, we're expanding our efforts with public engagement. If you want to support those things, go over to brainandspinegroup.org/support or brainandspinegroup.org/donate and donate to the nonprofit organization. And we're going to continue working on these issues because we haven't even really got into the thick of it. And we're already coming up with things that need to be improved. And that's what we're all about. So we covered 29 palms. The chaos that happens amongst a bunch of 20-something-year-old guys that are prepping to go on a deployment. Let's get into the actual deployment. Do you remember what it was like getting off the plane in Afghanistan? So for those of you who don't understand, the way you get into Afghanistan, which is actually probably something many people haven't thought of, but if you think about it, you're probably like, wait, how do I actually can I just take a United Airlines flight into Afghanistan? I don't know. Maybe you can. But this is how we got there. We flew out of a base in California. Basically flew across the United States. From the East Coast, we hopped over to Germany. From Germany into an adjacent country. And from the adjacent country, which was Kyrgyzstan, I don't know.
Yep. That's exactly it.
From Kyrgyzstan, you take a C-130 into the country. It's probably entirely different nowadays. If anybody's even still going. Probably very few people. But once you get, I just remember everything was kind of a benign piece of the process. It's just like long flight after long flight after long flight. It was getting off the plane in Afghanistan for the first time that I remember was such a shock. Do you remember that moment?
Oh yeah, I definitely remember that moment. I mean, we were all tired, exhausted from that long flight. No matter how much sleep you got on this flight, you're just urging with anticipation as to well the unknown to what to expect. You know, and we hit there, and it's like all you get hit with is like it's like someone putting a hairdryer on your face at full blast. How hot it was.
That's exactly. I remember the heat. Just like it just sucks the wind out of you when you have that. You've never experienced. I mean, we got there April, so maybe late March, early May, April. It wasn't that hot. It was maybe 110. It was like a hot Arizona summer. It was not like out of control. But coming from 80s, it probably was. Like it just sucks the wind out of you is what I remember. It was. Let's see if we can find. I must have the picture here somewhere from yesterday, or actually, let's see in our thumbnail. Let's find our thumbnail for the video because I'm pretty sure that picture was from our arrival, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. YouTube. Let's put this over here. And if we go to... There we go. And if I switch... Oh, actually, hold on. This is why we need to get... we need to expand our producer's budget so we can do these things a little bit easier. All right, here we go. It's a little hard to see. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff on the screen. But this young gentleman here is Mike. He's obviously aged. This is me. This is our good friend Nolan. This picture was taken within 24 hours of landing in the country. And you can see everyone is just like your eyes are glazed over because you have just been hit with this complete change in your life. And you basically do nothing for the first 72 hours or so. You don't really do much. You kind of just hang around and acclimate. Yeah. I mean, you don't do much. And that's probably a good thing. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I remember taking one of those buses, around the base and getting car sick. That I don't get car sick. I've never, literally the only time I ever got car sick in my life was probably on that bus one of the first days in Afghanistan. I remember just acute onset, I'm gonna hurl. I had to take a water bottle. I'm trying to throw up into a water bottle. It was terrible.
That's right. They had those weird buses on base bringing us from the airfield to where our camp was at. Yeah,
or a beat up old truck that was probably pulled out of a dump somewhere. That
Toyota stick shift.
Yep. So that's the day we arrived. That was that experience. So let's see. After that, we. From Leatherneck, we went... I don't think we made a pit stop at Dwyer. We went straight on to...
No, we took a Chinook right into Fiddler's Green.
We didn't convoy down there, though, right? We took helicopters?
We got dropped off with the helicopters, yeah.
Yeah, Rotary Wing took us in.
Yeah.
I took so many helicopters when I was in Afghanistan. With all the repair jobs I was doing at all the different fire bases, I flew constantly. It was me and I don't remember all their names. The 2 staff sergeants and the chief warrant officer from the armory.
Cordell?
Yeah. Him, the other guy.
Oh man, you're gonna make me think now.
It starts with an H. I'm trying to blank on his name. I don't remember the chief warrant officer. I can see the chief warrant officer's face. I can't remember his name though. Chief
Warrant Officer Van Luna.
Maybe. That doesn't even ring a bell. And then Barkheimer was the Lance Corporal that was working with them, I think. But it was the 3 of us, the chief warrant officer, 2 staff sergeants, and I guess now I've since been promoted to corporal. Literally just flying all over the place, and we went from Cop Payne to Kajaki to Sangin to everywhere. And we get flown right into Fiddler's Green, and Fiddler's Green was home for, I don't know, 7.5 months or so.
Yeah, it was the base home we never stayed at.
Yeah, I mean, it was home base that you never, I mean, I felt like I was rarely there. And then you guys were probably there. I mean, basically, because you guys would take log convoys all the time to Dwyer, right?
Well, some of them would go to Dwyer. Some of us would go to the little outposts like Huskers or Checkpoint North.
Yep.
And then I think what was it? We took a convoy down to Payne.
Do you remember? I think this was you. Do you remember when we got stuck at was it Huskers, that little patrol base right outside Fiddler's Green?
During a sandstorm?
Yeah.
Yep.
And you guys what's that?
I was on the 50 cal on post that day
because
we were supposed to get attacked during a sandstorm.
Yeah.
So
right? They told us all kinds of crazy stuff. They're like attacks. We got intel and attacks coming. And I remember it was like there was like lightning. It wasn't raining, right? It was like a sandstorm with like lightning. So like I
think that was one of our first sandstorms I ever experienced.
Yeah.
That was like it looked like a scene out of The Mummy.
It was. Because I remember I couldn't breathe, man. I was like, I feel like I had like sand like in my lungs. Like if I get like mesothelioma or something, I mean, maybe that'll be my big settlement one day. I mean, I'll probably die from it, but maybe my family will live very comfortably.
Was someone brought me someone thought it was a good idea to heat up a UGR for everybody.
Never a good idea.
So UGR is like just the big MREs for people who don't know, to make it feel like we're eating something better, but we're not.
Yeah. Supersized MRE.
Someone brought me a little tray, and brought me into those sandstorm. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? It's all covered in sand.
Ugh.
I was like,
it's the seasoning. It's the seasoning of seasoning of the country. Yeah. I remember when during that you were on post, I guess with a 50 cal. I don't remember all the details. It was just I remember it being so dark. You can't see anything, but then you get these flashes of lightning, and all of a sudden you could just see the whole landscape right in front of you for a brief second. I remember walking, I think it must have been you. Like, if it was somebody else, maybe, but I'm pretty sure this is you. I come up while you're on post, and I'm like, hey, how you doing, man? Like, good. And then lightning flashes. I was like, imagine if next time the lightning flashes, you just see, like, 500 dudes in front of you with AKs. Yeah. Oh, that's some cinematic shit right there.
That's the oh shit moment.
Yeah. You just rag back and just start unloading, my friend. Oh,
yeah, that lightning was no joke out there.
Yeah.
I remember when we went on it was the Joint Forces mission that was toward the border of Pakistan, and it was we'd see the lightning just hit the ground and disperse. We were out there, I think it was that we were digging a hole before we made our final push, and it was like we were just watching the lightning just scatter the ground. And I was lucky enough to have Geyser on the wrecker, and he put the spade in while everybody else was digging holes, and he dug a big ass hole for us to sleep in.
Jeez.
So we didn't even have to dig our hole. So he's like, I'm just gonna put the spade in and push it forward.
I remember we did that big convoy down to, I think it was Payne. So we must have been coming back from Payne up to Fiddler's Green. Also, I'll just stop for a second. I know we're rambling off all these base names and locations. If you're like totally confused, have no idea what we're saying, put your question in the chat. We're going to answer it for you. Sadly, the unanimous answer to probably any question you have about geography in Afghanistan is that it's just a different pile of dirt. But it's a pile of dirt with a name. But the country's beautiful. Go visit sometime. So I think we were coming back from Payne, back up to Fiddler's Green, and Geyser was on the wrecker, and all his trucks kept getting stuck. And he would have to like get out of the truck, and he's like running around, and I'm sitting up in like LVR or whatever they're called with Liebert, and you just see him like 100 feet off in the distance running through the sand trying to get this truck unstuck, and I'm like, look at that little man Geyser running through the sand. He's jumping up and down. Well, apparently microphone, one of these times was hot mic'd. It was like sitting up on the dash with the button like pushed down. And the comm officer gets out of his truck, like walks like 3 trucks up while we're all at a standstill. And he's like, "You're hot mic, you morons!" The whole battalion hears me like mimicking guys that run around in the sand. Look at the little midget running around in the sand.
Oh, man.
Oh my goodness. That's why everyone probably thought I was just the biggest knucklehead they've ever worked with.
I have one good story from when we were out in Afghanistan. It was me and Chief Warrant Officer Osborne, and we were doing some recovery after an IED just went off, and me and him we were securing the area, and then he just jumps in the damn hole, and then he's like, "Here," he's like, "Watch this," and he just rips the freaking wire out of the ground, and I was like, my stomach just dropped.
And my eyes just, what?
And I was like, my stomach just dropped. Like, I was like, oh man, we're dead.
I remember, you know how like they get all that training before you go to like 29 Palms? Oh, if you find unexploded ordnances, blah, 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 what to do. We were out somewhere and, you know, we see like some like mortar round or something stuck in the sand. And this is like one of my first field ops ever. I'm like a very junior Marine. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to touch that. Like, that's crazy. I think it must have, I don't know why I think this. Maybe it was Sergeant Huff, because he's a crazy old man who would have done. I feel like he knew it was like nothing to worry about, and he was just like messing with me. And he like walks over and he's just like, whoosh, and kicks it. And I was like, no! And it's just like a shell from a mortar. I was like, oh, whew! No, I thought I wouldn't even make it out of 29 Palms.
Yeah, 'cause that's what we had, the snakes and doves brief.
Oh, snakes and duds. There you go. Yeah. Wow, that's a memory. That is a memory. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's see. Where we made it in this journey. We made it to Fiddler's Green. Fiddler's Green. A place in the middle of the Afghanistan desert that has an economy of its own. You need a pallet of water moved. Call the engineers with the forklift. Oh, sorry, engineers are busy right now, but a pallet of rippets might get us there a little bit faster. And sure enough, it's amazing what you can bargain for in the middle of a desert. I remember one time, the chow hall, like air conditioning broke, right, to their tent. Their air conditioning broke. And so I go over, and I fix the generator, fixed the air conditioner, got it all working, and those guys were like so relieved. One of the guys walks me over to the freezer. It's like a big quad-con freezer, for those of you who've never seen what a chow hall in the middle of a desert looks like. And he just opens the double doors. He's like, anything you want is yours. Thank you for fixing our air conditioner. I grabbed a chocolate pie that I later found out was actually cheesecake, so I get a hard time from my wife because I don't like cheesecake. But apparently, I like chocolate cheesecake. I thought it was chocolate pie. Anyway, so I grab a chocolate pie, and I grab a bottle of sparkling grape juice. And I'm, like, sitting on the floor in our tent, like, laid out like some, like, Roman, like, child or something, watching television with my hand on my head like this, drinking a bottle of sparkling grape juice and eating pieces of chocolate cheesecake. And Pyle walks in. He's like, what the hell's going on here? You lush? I was like, yep, bargain for the good stuff. You know, whatever you need to trade to get the good stuff. But
we're scavengers. That's what we do when we make it to the big bases.
Oh yeah,
try to scrounge up whatever we can.
I forgot about that.
Did we ever figure out what our master sergeant's name was?
What? Oh, the old tiny master sergeant.
Yeah.
That was hilarious, but you couldn't even tell he was hilarious because you didn't understand like half of what he said.
Dude, like the story I was telling you yesterday. It's like when we went to the big base, and he goes, Ski, come with me. And very, very hard to understand. His thick accent was just like.
Yeah, he had a very thick Hispanic accent. I don't even, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I didn't think he even actually spoke fluent English. I think he was one of those guys that like managed to get through like a 20-year career in the Marine Corps without ever like really learning English.
No one understood what he says.
Yep.
And then he goes to me, he's like, come with me. He's like, you're good looking. He's like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to flirt with the female staff sergeant or get what we want from the supply. So we ended up getting a case of frozen Gatorades and like a bunch of muffins. It's like the best bargaining we ever did.
Mm-hmm. That's all you can bargain for food.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I found that there was this guy I ran into, and I was at Leatherneck, that I went to like MOS school with. So for those of you who don't know what MOS school is, before you get out into the operational Marine Corps forces, you have to go through a series of training. Boot camp is the traditional first step in that series of training that everyone goes through, and then everyone kind of scatters to the winds to do various different types of training based on their specialty, and then everyone sort of regroups back in the fleet operational forces. So when I was at MOS school, which is part of that training, I had a friend of mine there. I think his name was Reynolds, if I'm not mistaken. I ran into him when I was out in Afghanistan. We were both deployed, but with two different units. Hadn't seen each other in probably over a year. So it was nice. And, to run into an old friend. But he was like, I was just passing through this base. He was like a resident of this base. And he's like, oh, you need stuff, man? Like, I can hook you up. I'll show you, like... And he, like, takes me to, like, this, like, graveyard, this logistics graveyard of Leatherneck. And we're just, like, opening these, like, abandoned quad cons and just, like, scavenging for anything we can find. And there's, like, found, like, bunk bed, like, a bunk bed cot in there. And we dragged it all the way back to Fiddler's Green. And that's how Camarena and I ended up with our bunk beds. Yeah, good times. It's definitely a survivor's mentality out there at times. But, so, for those of you who don't know, Mike and I were a part of 111, it's an artillery battalion. So the way that our unit functioned was, once we got into country, every firing battery had to go set up their own firing position around the country. So the unit is not all co-located in a very, in a small geographic region. We're actually spread out at multiple positions, basically throughout the Helmand province of Afghanistan. And our job as part of the headquarters unit for the battalion is basically to make sure that all those firing batteries stay operational. I dealt with generators and electrical supply. Mike worked on trucks, so you kept their...
I didn't touch one truck, man, the whole time I was there.
Yeah, well, it's hard to fix that kind of stuff, right? When you're out there, you need parts.
I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think I've touched one truck the whole time we were there.
You're too busy welding with the chief warrant officer, I see.
We were out there the whole time, just either going convoys or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're constantly running convoys. Yeah, constantly running convoys.
If we're on convoys, we were cleaning weapons or doing whatever. Dusting off ammo.
I mean, that's the deployment life, right? You have a job, a logistics job, but you're like doing your logistics job sort of like sparsely in between combat operations, right? And that's the mentality of the Marine Corps, right? Every Marine's a rifleman first, right? You are not an admin clerk. You're a Marine. And, you'll take care of admin stuff in between. It's basically how it goes. But yeah. So our job was to keep all these firing positions operational, which involved all kinds of missions all around the country to basically go somewhere and fix whatever was broken there. That was basically what Mike and I did. We had various equipment that we were responsible for. My job was different than Mike's, but at the end of the day, it was the same thing. Go somewhere where our unit needed us and fix whatever was broken there, so that way the gun bunnies could keep sending rounds down range. And when you have to go to a lot of different places, it involves a lot of traveling. And traveling is honestly where you get into trouble in that country. You can sit safely on a base and generally, things are low key, generally. However, as soon as you step outside the wire, every time you go outside the wire, that's when things get dicey. And so in the course of our operations, obviously, we had our fair share of things getting dicey. And you want to tell the story of kind of things leading up to your primary injury, and get into some
Sure.
talk
Yeah, we
on
can
traumatic
kick it off
brain
there.
injury?
For sure. But from what I remember, it's like I had a bunch of people freaking tell me like a bunch of stories leading up to it because like my up until the point until I can remember my recovery and stuff like that. It's
So how about
like
you tell us
everything
what
just gets
you
fuzzy.
let's tell us what you think happened, and I'll tell you if I think something different happened.
And now it's like when we were out there, it's like we got out there. I do remember that it was the day of we were supposed to have like a memorial service for Sergeant Science,
Mm-hmm.
and I was supposed to be in the 21 gun salute for him for our small service that we were supposed to have, and we got pulled for to go recover a Bravo battery truck that went out there, and we were supposed to replace it with another truck and then bring it out. And then that night it was late into the night, we got stuck out there after a vehicle got hit. Or an ID went off, that's a truck. But no, the ID went off, and then we ended up having to stay out there until we were able to get support to come out. And I believe that's when you guys came out.
Yeah, so we were the
And,
third
Yeah.
convoy. We were the second rescue convoy, right? You were the first rescue convoy to rescue the first truck that got hit, and then we were the third rescue convoy to rescue you guys who also got held up. That's the sequence of events.
Yeah, and then and that's when you guys came out, and pretty much got my brain rocked
Yeah.
really bad.
So I remember it was like it was almost like a one-way street where you kind of had to like go down at the end and turn around and come back up. And so somehow we had all come down this like one-way road. I mean, roads are...
'Cause it was right next to a bunch of buildings too.
Yeah, there's like a little village. There's like a road right through this little village. So there's like little mud structures on all over on either side.
On that all night.
Yeah. So...
Make sure no one was coming out.
Because basically, you guys went out. You picked up the Bravo battery truck. You got hit. You got hit.
Tried to.
That wasn't the time where your truck got hit. Someone in your convoy.
I was right there. No, yeah, that was right in front of me.
Yeah. Okay, so it was right in front of you. It was not your truck.
I still remember when that one went off, and what was it? I had my microphone on me, and Epperson just rips it from my hand and starts screaming into it. He's like, "ID."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right.
Yep.
I guess you're gonna take it."
Hey, you gotta get the business done.
But like even like on your last podcast, like when you said about person with a brain injury or a concussion is the worst advocate, like that's like 100% on point. Because I mean, what do it's like you look at the Marine's mentality. You tell a Marine he's not going to be able to do something. That's almost physically impossible to do that. Because like you're bred in a certain way that you're not going to let anything stop you.
The dogs
Even
from
though
hell.
even though if it's going to affect other things, you're just going to try your hardest until you stop breathing.
That's why they say Marines are the dogs from hell, the devil dogs.
Oh, for sure.
All right. So, for those of you who don't know your Marine Corps history, that was a name given to Marines in World War One, Battle of Belleau Wood. If my history off the top of my dome is not evading me, and basically, when at this time in history, people who were fallen in combat were generally left on the battlefield. The Marines never leave a Marine behind. We were dragging our wounded off the battlefield and still advancing against Nazi Germany, and we were considered the fiercest fighting force of any of the alliance fighting or ally fighting force, and so the Nazi Germans nicknamed the Marines Devil Dogs because they thought we were dragging our wounded off the battlefield, eating their corpses, and using that energy to continue to advance against their onslaught. And when Marines found out about that, we got real fired up. And never let that nickname die. So yeah, you think everybody in the Marine Corps, you're bred to be a dog from the pit of hell, which is I think the mentality you're speaking to, right? That when a dog from the pit of hell suffers a brain injury, right? That dog's never going to take himself out of the fight. It's on everybody around that person to help them, to be their support network, to get them the care they need and get them rested and well again.
100% right.
So we'll continue moving forward in terms of the details, but basically this logistics convoy results in 3 vehicles being hit with improvised explosive devices, IEDs. Mike was in the second explosion. He was adjacent to the explosion. In the third explosion, he was directly impacted by it. Yeah, and that's what ultimately resulted in your, I guess technically it would be considered medevac, right? You ultimately came back to base in the same convoy.
Well,
We did not need to medevac.
Yeah, the medevac straight from there. So because we weren't too far from because it was right off of Route Red.
No, yeah, but I'm saying you still convoyed back to Fiddler's Green. You were medevac from Fiddler's Green.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was saying we did not call a medevac. The only time we called a medevac at the location of the injury that I was present for was the IED explosion in Sangin.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure. I mean, if I'm not misremembering, I believe we just convoyed back to Fiddler's Green because it was close, and they medevac you guys from Fiddler's Green.
Because that was just right around the time that one guy from Bravo got hit in the head with a sniper round.
Oh yeah.
While he was out taking a pee.
That was
then,
Olsen. Olsen was there for that one.
And then he what is it? He ended up having I'm guessing some freaking the spinal fluid from his ears come out.
Oh, so in the medical world, we refer to that as otorrhea, CSF otorrhea. Basically, you get a break in the dura, the meninges. So we'll take a quick brief pause and go over some technical stuff for everyone. So last podcast we talked a little bit about, in general, the brain is this sort of solid gelatinous mass that floats inside fluid that is inside the skull. So the thing that keeps the fluid contained around the brain so that it can float in fluid is the dura. Well, it's I believe Latin dura mater. I'm going to either sound really smart or really stupid. Dura mater, I believe it Latin root stands for tough mother. Or I have the language of origin wrong, but it definitely stands for tough mother is what it means. And it's a very thick, membranous casing around the brain that is continuous from the brain all the way down the spinal brain stem down into the spinal cord. So that's why you can stick a needle in the bottom of someone's spine, poke through that dura, and collect a sample of spinal fluid, which is the same fluid that's up in someone's brain. And what happened was, apparently, this is the first I'm hearing of this, but apparently this particular injury that Mike is talking about, the impact of that bullet was so strong that it actually caused a tear in a part of the dura of this person's brain, and resulted in CSF leaking out of the ear, which is a not uncommon location for CSF to leak when you have a violation of the dura. You can see CSF generally leak out of the ear or the nose are probably the 2 most common sites, I think, clinically where we see that. Possibly some other things that I'm not recalling off the top of my head, but it gives you a pretty clear idea, at least a little bit of a technical background to what you're saying. So anyway, with that interruption aside, go ahead and finish your story there, Mike.
Well, at that point, things started taking more serious about how concussions were really affecting people, or impacts or brain injuries really affecting. Because, the protocol for a simple brain injury, I think in the Marine Corps was at that time, was just get evaluated, and then I think it was only like a couple. They said a half a day, and send you back out. You know, it was like half day light duty, and then and monitoring by the corpsman, and then to send you back out to your platoon or whatever. You know, so, but you know, and it's like from our medevacs, it's like we ended up going to the British hospital, and I mean that took us for quite a good.
How long were you at the British hospital?
I was at the British hospital, I want to say, for about roughly over 2 weeks before we got transferred to the Air Force.
Okay, where was the Air Force facility?
It was right in the. It was in the same area as Bastion, but
okay.
The Bastion Air Base, they had an actual hospital, like a brick hospital.
Okay.
And then the Air Force CASIV that we were at, it's like almost a bunch of like really nice medical tents that we slept in. We slept on these like really like they almost looked like freaking surgical beds, but they had like a little bit of like small rails that were really skinny beds that we slept in.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the nurses or whatever the medical staff was for the Air Force, they told us to be careful with the Marines when they put extra blankets on us, because they're like, they will hit.
They will hit you. Beware of Marine. Gotta love it.
Especially a sleeping one.
Yeah, gotta love it. Oh, Mike. I mean, it's so true, though, in the sense of something about that whole experience. You learn to sleep anywhere. Yeah. You remember all the, like, sleeping on airfields and stuff, just, like, waiting on, planes and all kinds of stuff.
I remember sleeping on the parade deck and Polgas with my head on the curb. Just laying there, just taking a nap. Yep. I think it was during like a piss test or something like that, like a battalion like test, and we're all just waiting around. No one could leave the parade deck until everybody went.
Jeez.
And then I was like, because we were going on leave or something like that, so it's like literally I just put my head on a cement curb and took a nap.
That's incredible. I don't think I could do that these days. Now no. my wife gets us this like super nice mattress, and I'm complaining. I'm like, I think this mattress you bought is terrible for my back. I gotta wake up every morning with neck pain.
I'm not afraid for comfort now.
Okay? Yeah. I'm like, what happened to the days?
I spent my time. I'm like, I need my comfort.
I know. What happened to the days? I miss the days though where I could just use a Kevlar as a pillow and be fine. That's so annoying.
And you're ready to go.
Yep. Exactly. So you spent time at the Air Force Hospital, about 2 weeks, you think it was?
No, the British hospital was about 2 weeks.
The British hospital is about 2 weeks.
I want to say the Air Force Hospital, probably another 2 or 3 weeks there before we got transferred over to the naval side.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that's when we started to do our intake through there's a special like area called the Wounded Warrior Battalion out with the naval hospital.
Oh, interesting.
So we were all there, and it was in these tents and stuff, and we literally have to be at our daily appointments that we were there for.
So you weren't really getting any treatment or care until you got to the naval side of things.
Well, I mean, they did their like scans, and of course, they'll give you they'll give you pain meds and whatnot. It's pretty much they wanted to keep you at a level of sedation to keep you calm. Because I want to say that they had me on Percocet for like the whole time.
And what was the reasoning? Were you having like headaches, or were they like, hey, take this for a headache?
Instantly, I was having headaches.
Okay.
Afterward, I was nauseous, freaking throwing up. Like, it was just like you'd feel like severe pain, like in certain areas of your head. And then it was like they would just give. I don't know. At the time, I was just like taking. You give me it. I'm gonna trust you.
Of course, yeah. I mean, what else are you gonna do in that situation?
I was like, I wasn't really like in the right state of mind either. So I was like, why am I here? I'm out with my unit.
So.
And it's like.
So it took all in all about 4 weeks to get to the naval side of things after the injury.
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
And then after 4 weeks, how long were you at actually going through the program, the recovery program at in the naval hospital?
I was there for about, I want to say, over like a month and a half with the naval side on there.
And then it was from there that you came back to us at Fiddler's Green?
Here's the thing is they were not doing anything for me. Like literally, they were not doing anything for me at the naval hospital there. Because it was not even naval hospital. It was just tents with the MOs and other corpsmen and stuff. But from there, they didn't really do anything except evaluate you with the same carpet saddle bubble test. You'd go and take your other test. You know, you'd see a psychologist for anything like that. Anything related to like PTSD related or anything post-blast syndrome, what they were calling it too. They were trying to just talk to you about that. And literally, I want to say for like 3 or 4 weeks that I was there, that's all they did. And didn't do anything else for treatment-wise. They would just give you some pills to sleep, more pills for pain, and that was it. And then I I can't remember who I was telling, but they said to me, he's like, the fastest way you're going to get back to the hospitals is just BS your way out of there.
Who told you that?
I'm not going to say.
Well, like, I'm saying, like, but not like a name. That was a...
No, yeah.
What type of person told you that? Like another Marine or a provider?
Yes. It was another Marine.
Oh, okay. Well, you can't... I mean, that's irrelevant. My point is, don't take medical advice from Marines. Well, I guess that doesn't apply to people who may or at any point in their life be my patient. I think it's okay to take my medical advice. Or not. I don't know. Get a second opinion.
He's like, you want to get your fastest way to get back, to go to Balboa and stuff like that, to get the real help that you need. He's like, just BRS your way out of there. And I'm like, all right, you know. I mean,
in what way? Like how would people BS their way out of there?
You just start being like, oh, it's getting better, you know.
Oh, okay.
And even though you know you're have those pre-existing problems, you know.
But ultimately, because all you're trying to do is get back to stateside healthcare.
Yeah, but the thing is, it wasn't about getting back to stateside. It was getting back to the unit. You know, it's like.
So what was more important to you at this point, going home or going back to your unit?
Going home didn't mean much to me, dude. So, like, I mean, I have family and all, but it's like, it wasn't my main priority to be home with it. It was, you know, just being back with everybody and.
Yeah, you felt alone, I assume.
Yeah, you know, you feel stripped from your unit. You feel stripped from that camaraderie. You get taken away from your ability to actually do stuff. You get your rifle taken away from you too. So it's like.
Did you get that back when you came back to Fiddler's Green, or did you spend the rest of your deployment without a rifle?
I can't remember. No, I think I spent the rest of my deployment without it.
Interesting.
But it was just ridiculous though.
Wow.
Because like, you think about the emotional impact of it. You get taken away, you know, from your unit. You get told that you can't do what you were always doing day one of the deployment. And I mean, that takes a toll on you, period. And then having to deal with like the headaches, the hard time sleeping at night, freaking, just like other things that I was experiencing, you know, like I was experiencing like when you'd take a walk and lose your balance completely. It would feel like you were stepping into an invisible hole. Like, and you lose balance. You know, and no one had an explanation for that.
You said
everybody looked at you like you're crazy.
So going through, I mean, now as the literature is improved, obviously, since this experience that you've had. You know, we kind of, at least, you know, back then, you said nobody understood, or you were having balance issues. You know, at least now there's data that's showing us that balance, vestibular issues are very well associated with these injuries, and we don't necessarily know how to best treat them or how to, you know, exactly. I mean, obviously preventing something like this would be better, right, if it never happened. But assuming you're in the situation where now it's happened, sorry, how do we deal with it? You know, we just found out that it was really even an issue basically less than 10 years ago. And, you know, so the literature, as you've sort of kind of described, really breaks things down into the symptoms associated with traumatic brain injury in veterans. And actually, one of the things, this is a really cool research project that's coming out of Brain and Spine Group, being led by a student. I'm just going to go off on a little bit of a side note here. One of the things I love about the organic nature of how this organization's come to be is there's so many up-and-coming doctors, medical students who volunteer with this organization that are driving projects that they're interested in. And as leadership of the organization, I just get to be excited about it and help them in any way possible. So what I do want to do is highlight this one project that a student, Laurel, is working on, where basically she started by reviewing all the literature of known treatment associated with TBI, specifically in veterans. And her whole point is to basically, in this paper, which is not yet published, it's actually on my list of one of the next papers I have to help her revise and get out into a peer-reviewed journal soon, is basically just providing an overview of all the treatment that's been tried and how well it has or hasn't worked for veterans, specifically with traumatic brain injury. And so one of the things you do is we're breaking up, because now as we're starting to identify trends in the problems people are having, right, we categorize everything. And that's how, as doctors and scientists, we keep all this massive volume of information. We try to make something of it by creating frameworks and organizations and taxonomies of information. And one of the ways that we've found studying traumatic brain injury is starting to look at things in a taxonomy of symptoms. Headache being one of the primary symptoms that people experience after injury. I think looks like we had a camera cut out. We'll get Mike back here real quick. While we wait on Mike to get back in here, I just want to thank everyone so far that's tuning in. We've got about another 30 minutes or so left in our stream. We're going to, get to the end of some of these stories. If you haven't already, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe right now. Please, it will help us out. We're getting real close to 10,000 subscribers. I want to thank the people, Malik Med 80, Teddy Dill, they're subscribed during this stream already. All the people out there who have shared the stream. You guys are helping us get this content out to more people. You're helping us create new content that engages the public about neurotrauma, that supports research projects, and overall just moves the mission of Brain and Spine Group forward, which is to improve brain and spine health globally. Let's see if we got Mike back here. Hang on one second. Yes. We're just getting Mike back in briefly. While we wait on Mike to come back in, I'll just continue with where I was going with things. We categorize things based on symptoms. Headache being the primary one. Visual dysfunction, vestibular, or these balance issues that Mike was talking about. That's oftentimes associated with hearing difficulties or hearing problems, and sleep disturbances. These are some of the main very significant symptoms that plague sufferers of traumatic brain injury after an event like this. So even after they go through all these initial phases of recovering and getting out of the acute care setting, the acute hospital setting, these symptoms plague them for sometimes the rest of their life. And so what I'd like to do once we get Mike back in here, I know he's battled a lot of these things and worked within the VA healthcare system, which has its own problems. Although, you know, sometimes, put it this way, I think if you gave the veterans the option between the VA healthcare system or no healthcare support at all, you know, we're very grateful that we have a VA healthcare system. But the sad thing is, it's hard working through the VA healthcare system. And you're going to hear about some of that from Mike. And we just want it to be better, right? We don't want it to not exist. We just want it to be better. And hopefully, you know, you can say the VA healthcare system, at least in my experience, has gotten better. It's getting better. But it takes advocacy. It takes veterans talking about it. It takes people coming alongside veterans and helping them. And, you know, hopefully the work of Brandon Spine Group will also contribute to moving the needle in terms of improving the VA healthcare system for veterans. So let's see, check in, get a quick update, and see where Mike's at. He may have just lost his internet connection. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get Mike back in here. I don't know why we are struggling to get our guest back in here. I do apologize for this technical difficulty. We are working on it. Sadly, I am not able to work on it and keep talking at the same time. But if you support the stream, we're going to keep improving it. We're going to get build out our production team and see if, you know, we can have people that are working on these things in the background a little bit too. So that way we can make these technical snafus a little simpler. Let's see here. Let's go to full. Let's see if we can get our guest back in the screen here. We do apologize for the technical difficulty. We lost the stream to our guest. We're trying to regenerate that link and get him back in here real soon. All right. So while we wait to see if we can get our guest back on stream here, I'm going to talk a little bit about headaches. Actually, let's not talk about headaches because I want to talk about these symptoms, the headaches, sleep disturbances. I want to talk about all of that once we get Mike back in the stream. But one of the things that's interesting is actually where is it here? The difference between civilian and military head trauma. Because last stream we talked about how these different populations are used to study head trauma. Because in some ways they're very controlled, right? In the typical civilian population, we miss almost 1/7/8 of all mild traumatic brain injury, right? We said it's estimated about 8 million or so mild traumatic brain injuries or concussions, right? We'll just recap a little bit. Our head traumas are categorized into general buckets. We put them in 3 categories: mild, moderate, and severe. Mild is basically synonymous with a concussion. Now, there's estimated to be somewhere in the ballpark of about 8 million concussions or mild traumatic brain injuries in the United States every year. However, they estimate that only about 1.3 million, so about 1/8, are reported by the CDC, which means only about 1/8 of mild traumatic brain injuries are actually making it into a hospital to be evaluated. The other portion don't even actually make it into the hospital, which is certainly problematic in terms of intervening, right? You can't help someone who doesn't come to the hospital to be helped. So one of the reasons why we study traumatic brain injury in athletes is because they're a monitored population, and you can catch them usually at the point of injury and evaluate them, treat them, put them through a return to play protocol, and then you can study the effects of these return to play protocols in these populations, right? It's a controlled situation where you have the ability to follow the patient from the onset of injury to resolution. Whereas if you're trying to look in a non-controlled population, the general public, right, we know that the data says we're going to miss about 7/8 of all those injuries, and any data you collect on the 1/8 that actually walks into the hospital may actually not be truly indicative data or outcomes that is true for the remaining 7/8 of the population, because you're looking at an incomplete data set. Now, the reason we use military as another form of controlled population to study traumatic brain injury is for many of the same reasons, right? It's controlled population where the onset of injury is generally observed and intervenable. However, the type of injury that civilian head trauma is typically blunt acceleration injury. So mechanical acceleration forces result in the brain inside the skull that is floating in that fluid we've talked about, colliding with the inside of the skull because of rapid acceleration. And military injuries, a typically more common form of traumatic brain injury is due to blast injury, which is, let's see, we're still having trouble with the feed. That is, let's see here. Let's see what we can do here. Our guest. So we're going to get back to blast injuries in just a second. Let's keep working on trying to get our guest back in the stream. Let's try. Let's try this. Let's try getting a new stream link in for Mike. Maybe this will get him in. Let's see what we got here. All right. While we get him in. Let's see what we can do here. We apologize for the technical difficulties. We do apologize. We are working tediously to get Mike back on the stream for everyone. We appreciate you guys staying with us while we get this sorted out. We are doing the best we can here. We apologize. So, while Carlos works on trying to get Mike back in the stream, again, apologize profusely for the technical difficulty. Let's go back, continue talking about the difference between civilian and military neurotrauma. The biggest difference being that, compared to civilian neurotrauma being primarily blunt force and acceleration force injuries, military neurotrauma is primarily blast injury. And blast injury is traumatic brain injury induced by pressure wave gradients that is believed, we don't actually understand how it results fully in traumatic brain injury, but it is different than an acceleration injury. It's changes in pressure gradient with the blast believed to possibly be transmitted either through orifices of the skull into the brain or possibly even through the thorax, the chest, the great vessels of the thorax. Basically, that pressure wave travels up through the fluid gradient of the great vessels to impact the brain, basically through the vascular supply of the brain. And I don't think we fully understand which, if any of those mechanisms are fully explain how traumatic brain injury results from blast injury, but it does so it complicates how well we can actually truly understand the difference between blast and injury and acceleration injury. Now, I think there's good merit to the idea that is pressure gradient transmitted through openings of the skull, right? And you think, like, let's take the eyeballs, for example. Your eyes are, allow you to see, obviously, right? You can see because the nerves coming out of the back of your eye run through tracks into your brain, and your brain is what basically creates that picture of vision so that you can actually see. Now, if you disrupt the nerve connection between your eyes and your brain, that's when you develop vision problems. In the case of a tumor, if it compresses those nerves, that will disrupt the function of those nerves and impact vision. And that's why some patients, when the first sign of them having a tumor is a change in their vision. And I'm seeing a comment in the chat here from Olson. Route 605. I can't. He's saying. I don't know what that OBJ is at the end of his comment. I don't know if he's trying to stick like an attachment in the chat or something, or it's like an emoji that doesn't show up the same on the streaming software. But yeah, round 605. That's where Mike's injury happened. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back into that story because that's the whole exciting part of this stream. But going back to how blast injury actually affects the brain is believe that possibly the pressure wave gradient tracks through openings in the skull. And you need openings in the skull for things like your eyes, for the nerve to actually connect to the back of your eye and run back into your brain, right? You can't have Bluetooth sensory connection, although that would be fun. So let's see here. Neither of these, we're having trouble getting, apparently our stream chat is not bringing our guest back into the stream. Well, let's see if we can. This is a very challenging technical issue. Let's get to... refresh the scene. I don't know how to... can we do that? Is there a way to do that? We're going to give this about another minute or so to see if we can get this technical issue. If we can't get this technical issue sorted out in another minute or two, I'll go ahead and continue. I'll wrap up what we were talking about with blast injury, and we'll just end the stream a little early, and we can always have Mike back for part 2, where we finish this stream up. I really genuinely apologize for this issue. This is no fun for anyone. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I think we can do. Let's go try our settings. That's not... yeah. All right. Well, I genuinely apologize for this technical difficulty. I know we left you hanging at really the crux of the story from Mike, getting into really the nitty-gritty of what it's like dealing with a blast injury to the head and that recovery process and going back to your unit. But what we'll do is just go ahead and pick it up in a part 2 stream that we'll coordinate with Mike. That way we can continue this discussion, and we'll just wrap up with a sort of final explanation of what we were saying is, in order for things like your eyes, those nerves coming out of the back of your eyes to connect into your brain, you need openings in the skull for those nerves to travel. And all those tiny little openings in the skull, from the eyes, the back of your nose, your ears, right? You can hear, but in order to hear, you need nerves that connect into your brain. So at some point, nerves have to connect from the parts of your ear that transmit sound, they have to get into your brain. It's through all those small holes that pressure gradients are transmitted into the brain, or this is what it's believed, and that's how you end up with traumatic brain injury related to blast injury, even if you don't have a mechanical acceleration or blunt injury of the skull. And that's why this did not exist when I was in, when Mike and I were in service, but they've basically determined anyone within 50 meters should be evaluated for traumatic brain injury. And given the experience, which we'll tell you about on the next stream, many of us, especially in 2010 timeframe, were definitively within that 50-meter range of a blast, but because we didn't have any immediate signs of more severe concussion, we were never evaluated. And I was actually reading about a very interesting device that's supposed to mimic like a radiation dosimeter that measures exposure to radiation that a lot of radiologists and radiology technicians will wear. They've apparently created something similar that will basically trip a sensor if you've been exposed to too significant of a blast wave, which is a really cool technology. I think we'll definitely read up more on the development of that, and we'll talk about that more on the stream. But I think this is a good time to just thank everyone for coming out to the stream today. Again, we really apologize that technology shut us down a little bit early, but each and every week we're coming back. We're going to keep working on the logistics of the stream to make sure these things don't happen in the future. We're going to get you higher quality stream, high quality content, ultimately serving the mission of Brain and Spine Group, which is to improve brain and spine healthcare globally for everyone. We hope you take that journey with us. If you want to support that journey, please go over to our website, brainandspinegroup.org/support or /donate. And donate to the organization. We are really excited about all the great new things that we're doing. If donating is not financially feasible for you, but you still want to support us, please follow us on YouTube. We are looking to hit that 10,000 subscriber mark as soon as possible, and it only goes up from there. We've got a lot of amazing, really awesome things planned for the 2023 calendar. We're going to continue with academics. We are going to continue with the stream. We are going to continue with doing research and making brain and spine health better for everyone. So if any of that appeals to you, you've enjoyed these shows, you want to be a part of the community of Brain and Spine Group, please stay involved. We'll be back live again Tuesday next week at the same time, 12 noon Eastern, 11 Central, or 9 a.m. Pacific, depending on what part of the country you're in. If you're outside the country, just look up what time we go live in your time zone. We hope you'll join us next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, we're going to be joined by Dr. Susan Panulo from Cornell University. We're going to be talking a little bit about biomedical engineering, developing new devices, and that talk about this new device that she and her team have been developing that is aimed at helping veterans with traumatic brain injury. So we're staying kind of along the same lines. We're still talking neurotrauma. We're still talking veterans. We're still talking sports injuries. We're just going to take a little bit of a different approach on Tuesday and talk about device development related to those things as well. So again, I'm Dr. Rad. I am really excited to be doing this show for you guys every Tuesday, every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern. Join us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the last call to action I have for you. Subscribe. I'll see you guys Tuesday at noon. All right. Have a good week.